It would be so easy for me to make a moralist video and complain about how the GOP is evil for taking hostages, and it'd probably be a well-liked video, but I'm not going to do that, because that would betray my own principles. Still, it's strange, isn't it? If I smuggled a bomb onto a plane and threatened to blow it up and kill everyone on board unless my demands were met, America as a whole would label me a terrorist. If I went to my local elementary school and shot up a classroom, I'd be labeled a criminal and a sociopath. And what if I labeled this video, "Make my video go viral, or a bomb will go off in an airport and 300 people will die"? Now, my subscriber base would, by virtue of having watched more of my videos, probably know there's more to it than just the title, but what about the average person who's never heard of Balthazar 3457? How would they react if they happened across a video titled, "Make my video go viral, or a bomb will go off in an airport and 300 people will die"? Well, some might assume it's a hoax, or be smart enough to know it's satire, but others might panic or flag my video. Of those people, they'd probably label me a terrorist. But if I arrange for more people to be killed as a result of government programs that save lives being shut down, and kill far more than 300 people, I'm not a terrorist. As long as I kill people indirectly, I'm somehow given a magic shield against responsibility in the eyes of America. Now, for those of you who haven't heard, the American government has entered a shutdown period. Now, that's a bit of a misnomer. We're not disbanding Congress and firing the president. The government in itself isn't shutting down. What it is doing, however, is cutting many government-related or government-funded programs and operations that are considered non-essential. Examples of non-essential programs include things like the Center for Disease Control no longer having funding to do flu vaccinations and respond to outbreaks, the National Institute of Health shutting down several operations, various environmental and anti-pollution operations shutting down, food safety and inspection services shutting down, chemical safety and hazard investigation, benefits for veterans. Many things that would otherwise seem important are getting slashed. Why is it happening? Because there's an argument over Obamacare. To put it very simply, the Republicans said, "We won't agree on funding unless we get to modify Obamacare, and we'll force a government shutdown if you don't let us." To which the Democrats responded by saying, "We won't let you tamper with Obamacare, but we're also not going to force you to come to an agreement on funding." And consequently, there's now a government shutdown because these two sides could not come to any sort of consensus. Both sides currently have mutually exclusive goals and aren't backing down, and since the government shutdown was threatened and the demands weren't met, the threat has now been followed through on. These programs I listed are just a few of many, and there is a list in the description below this video. But American citizens will, without a doubt, die as a result of this shutdown if it lasts more than a few weeks. And many employees will be left jobless. Some might eventually be fortunate enough to be paid, but that's not a guarantee for all of them, and due to the many health and safety programs being cut, it's safe to say the overall quality of life of the American citizen will be reduced. Now let me make something clear. I will not criticize the Republicans or the GOP for holding America hostage. It would be very easy for me to make a moralist video saying they're all traitors for threatening to kill people, and make no mistake, they are threatening to kill people. People will die as a result of them following through on their threats. They are killing the hostages. But that action in itself is not something I'll criticize, because if I did that, I'd be flipping my principles just because I have a chance to criticize a group I don't like. And that's not something I'm going to do, because I have more integrity than that. Before criticizing them, I have to consider, what if I were in a position where I could force the American government to buckle to my agenda, to reform healthcare, to reform education, and make several other upgrades to the nation and launch several of my projects. If I were really in a position where I reasonably expected that I could force all those events to take place and save millions of lives, and all it would take is, say, killing 10,000 people with a deadly virus outbreak and blackmailing some politicians. If I was really in the position where I knew I'd be successful, would I call the whole thing off because of morals? We lose 200,000 a year in preventable medical malpractice alone. That's 20 times the amount of people that die from the virus. Every day, we lose about 7,000, many from preventable causes. In 2 days, America will have lost more people than my virus. The 9/11 event killed 3,000 people, and yet we more than double that every single day. But when it's politicians doing it, and they do it indirectly by arranging the deaths, they're not criminals. Because it's such a sudden event, the viral outbreak would be all over the news and it'd be shocking. But if things go normal, no one would report the 14,000 deaths the next day. If I released such a virus and killed 10,000, I would surely be labeled a terrorist. But if I became a politician and arranged for 200,000 to die and things for the public went according to plan and it didn't happen suddenly, I'm just your friendly senator. So when you're aware of how many people will die as a result of you not taking action, do you retain the ability to morally justify not using force? If you can kill 10,000 and save 200,000 each year for the next 50 years, Can you justify saying, I want 200,000 people to die each year so I can feel like I have good morals? If you think about the suffering which most people spare themselves the sight, you can very rapidly adopt an ends justify the means morality, because it'll become very apparent that most people are presenting morality as a reason to avoid action, are people uninformed, apathetic, and usually asking you to kill more people to conform to their moral code. So how can I, who is stared into the abyss and cannot honestly say that I wouldn't be willing to resort to blackmail or threats if I thought I could realistically force my agenda, criticize others? So instead of the GOP, for this category, my criticism goes to America. Why is it that if I murder 10 people, I'm a terrorist, but if I murder 100,000, I'm simply a politician? Why is it that if I mass murder 10,000 with a virus, I'm a terrorist, but if I force 20 times that number to die every year, I'm simply a politician with a lot of people voting for me because they like my agenda? And how can I respect a morality based on such a double standard? Oh, you don't have to answer. I know already. I thought that way too when I was younger. We learned it at an early age. Our morals make us the good guys and everyone else the bad guys. People who don't think like us are bad because it's by thinking like us that they could be the good guys. We're right and they're wrong. Capitalism good, communism bad. America good, everyone else bad. Why? Because mommy and daddy say so. Because school teachers and pastors say so. Because politicians say so. Everyone told me the Earth was flat, therefore it must be true. I don't need to do research. That'd be signs of a lack of faith, and it's too much effort spent in return for the risk of being associated with those evil non-flatters. Your education was bought and paid for by the same people who bought and paid for your elections. But with all that said, despite that my main criticism is to America as a whole, I will criticize the Republican House on another note. With my considerations, as I explained earlier, I have an agenda to reform education, to improve medicine, and to obtain the bonus of being cost-effective in terms of lives lost. And it's all part of a grand design to build a better government, and consequently, a better civilization. I've talked about this in previous videos many times, and this doesn't really compare to the politicians arguing over Obamacare very well. Because look at Obamacare's history. It originated as conservative Romney Care, and before it became Obamacare and was being implemented by a Democrat, it received praise from the right wing. Until Obama took it, then it had to be criticized and fought against, because it was now a Democrat thing and not a Republican thing. I suspect that if it were McCain who won the 2008 election, and he implemented the exact same bill, having named it Romney Care, and Obamacare and Romney Care were identical, these same politicians who are arguing against Obamacare at this very moment would be showering praise on Obamacare and fighting to preserve it, regardless of if they think the contents make it a good or bad healthcare bill. My criticism is not that they took hostages. My criticism is that there isn't a higher goal. They have no grand design. There can't be an ends justify the means mentality because there's no mentality to start with. There is no goal and there is no purpose. Some of my friends are ex-military, and they're going to be screwed out of the benefits they were promised if this lasts beyond the 17th. What is the purpose for their suffering, and the purpose of the suffering for everyone else who's going to die due to the failed and neglected health and safety regulations and everyone else affected? To benefit a few self-interested political careers and the puppet masters who own them. There is no grand future for humanity being planned. There is no grand experiment to better understand humanity. The ambitions are small. So the politicians involved in this out of self-interest, scurrying to build themselves better careers, I offer you a warning. All glory is fleeting, and your legacy will drift away, blown into eternity, like the sands of the desert. I'll see you next time.